pennant short, Mateo literally sitting on the moon, Ramon Urias playing second base.
It was fun going to games again. It was fun feeling the energy of the yard, and I'm ready for the next step.
They're all exciting pieces, and I mean, you could look at a lot of lineups this year and you could really feel good about the game, and I don't think we could say that for the last few years.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 81 of the Talking Brady podcast. I am reporting live from Ed Smith Stadium in the middle of the eighth inning. How we doing, gentlemen? We have a guest tonight, and I'll let Brad introduce our guest.
We got our guy Nick back on. We had him here last year, Mr. Yankee fan. He brings a lot of good insight. He was a little hard on himself when we were talking before we came on here about his predictions from last year. But Nick, always good to see you, man. How's everything been going, brother?
Doing pretty well. I appreciate you guys having me on. I had fun with you guys last year, and I got every prediction wrong other than your Baltimore Orioles. All my Yankee predictions about winning the East and being one of the best teams, they sucked. The lineup looked absolutely awful without Aaron Judge, and it didn't look great with him in it. I thought the Red Sox, I skipped that one in the intro. I thought the Red Sox would suck. They were decent. I thought the Rays would take a huge step back. They did not. They never seem to take a step back no matter who they lose. They lose people every year. The only thing I got right was the Orioles. I knew Brandon Hyde would have you guys in contention, and I knew not getting the starting pitcher. Gibson is a 2 or a 3 at best. So
the key is at best there, yeah.
At best. And Brad, I know you were upset about the Adam Frazier, and rightfully so. You know, you don't want a guy making more money than most of your team and block minor leaguers.
Right.
But I hated the Gibson signing, you know, and it cost you guys in the playoffs. I had a feeling it would, but this year with Corbin Burns, I mean, you had Yamamoto. Of all the pitchers that were possibly available, Burns was, I think, the best guy and the perfect fit. So, and how the hell did you not give up Westberg or Holiday or any of those guys?
Yeah, that was the best part about it to me. When I saw the alert come up on my phone, Orioles acquired Corbin Burns, initial reaction is, who? And then I'm like, who did we give up? Who did we give up? And then I pulled it up, and DL Hall. And wait, who was the other one we gave up?
Joey Ortiz.
Yeah. I mean, those are both guys that I like, but it's a no-brainer that I'm giving them up for Corbin fucking Burns, man. I mean, we've lacked an ace pitcher like that, and Joey Ortiz, while I think he has a chance to be a good major leaguer, he's kind of blocked in our organization. And DL Hall, we once had high hopes for him, and he still could be a good reliever, and I hope to see him do well in Milwaukee. Maybe he'll get a chance to start. I kind of hope he does. I want him to do well. But things weren't really panning out the way that we were hoping it to pan out when he was in Baltimore. So, absolute no-brainer of a trade. Of course, everything comes at a cost, and I'm not just talking about who we gave up. We're all very excited, and then we get to spring training, and Kyle Bradish has a UCL injury. So, they say expect him to pitch this season, but that's never a good sign.
Correct.
I feel like that always leads to Tommy John surgery. Every time you hear about a pitcher saying, yeah, I'm going to try to pitch through it, I'm sure there's got to be some example.
Never goes well. Never.
Yeah, there's got to be some example of it working, but I can't think of it.
I got one. Okay. I got one example that it ever worked where he pitched through it, and that's Matsuhiro Tanaka of the Yankees. Now, he wasn't a hard thrower, but he had that partial tear, and he ended up pitching pretty well. I thought his contract was okay, and I was actually a little concerned with the Yamamoto. I know the Yankees wanted him, and he looks like he could be a stud, but the ball is smaller, the parks are smaller, and the competition's not quite as good. That's an awful lot of money to be shelling out for a guy that never threw an inning in the major leagues. And to be honest, and I hate to admit this, but Baltimore probably has the best team. The only thing that's holding me back from saying that right now is losing Bautista. And I'll give you a side note. I do a big money fantasy baseball league, and drafting Chris Helsley of the Cardinals over Felix Bautista cost me a championship.
Mm.
And and I like the guy. I told you guys I loved him last year. I told Brad he should have been your closer in the beginning of last year. I don't know. I never heard of the guy, but he definitely turned his career around. Not having him, I think that hurts. You guys are still one of the best teams, but I would literally put you ahead of the Braves with Bautista instead of who'd you guys sign? Kimbrel?
Yeah.
I mean, you could do worse, but I would rather have seen maybe Cano get the shot and then go with Perez and go with all the other guys to kind of set up. Plus, you got chips. You can make a trade.
Yeah. And I still could see a scenario where if Kimbrel struggles, Cano ends up taking over the closer role. But then that just opens up the 8th inning. So, I mean,
Have
you're
they
still
said Kimbrel is the guy for the 9th inning?
I don't think they've officially announced it, but I think it's the assumption.
Okay. I mean, I would say it's just kind of up to whoever is able to outperform for that spot. I mean, Cano was electric to start last year, kind of fell off second half of the year. Not like a crazy fall off, but still like was not himself from the first half. And Kimbrel's like been Mr. Inconsistent the last like 4 years here. So I mean, I don't think it's anybody's spot per se unless Bautista's healthy, and I don't think we're gonna see him through this entire year. So kind of like
Guys, I must report that Toby Mayo has just stepped into the batter's box.
Ooh, baby.
But yeah, there's not like a lot of other candidates outside those two guys either, though, to really compete for that spot. Like, could have maybe been like DL Hall if he was still around, but I'll take that trade too.
The other thing, if you look at the division, I know the Yankees and getting Juan Soto, kind of like you guys getting Corbin Burns, that's the perfect guy to head your rotation. Juan Soto's the perfect guy to hit near Judge. I think the Yankees really try to sign him to a long-term deal. And, Rodon is due to pitch better than he did. He can't pitch worse, but those are the improvements that the Yankees are counting on. Rodon to pitch well. I think Stroman will be okay. But I think the big problem is their bullpen performed well and they weren't really that good. And so losing Michael King is going to hurt. Michael King was the best pitcher in our bullpen. And for whatever the reason, some guys can't close. When we had Robertson, he always struggled when he filled in for Mariano Rivera. When he was injured, when Mariano threw 2 days in a row. And I thought I saw the same thing with Cano. He kind of struggled last year. I know our bullpen sucks. I'm really worried. I think the Yankees should be good, but watch for the bullpens. The Orioles could struggle. The Yankees could struggle. The Rays could struggle. The Blue Jays have Jordan Romano. I think that's the best situation with Felix Bautista being out. But I want to throw up in my mouth saying you guys are as good as the Braves. But if you had Bautista, I don't think there's any question. I think the Orioles lineup is better. 1 through 9.
Maybe that Juan Soto addition terrifies me because I think he's the best offensive player in baseball. Like, not even close.
I think Judge is the best, and Soto might be the second best.
Yeah,
well,
Soto does not swing at a ball. He swings
Ohtani.
at only strikes that he wants. And he has like a 420 career on base percentage.
And then you got Ohtani in there too. So I mean, not that he's with the Yankees to clarify, but they have 2 out of the 3 best hitters in baseball. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
I like Acuna. I was a center fielder in college and high school. I stole bases. I like speed. It puts a lot of heat on teams, especially with the new rules. It lends to stolen bases. And Juan Soto stealing all those bases. I mean, especially just from a fantasy baseball standpoint, I love Judge. It's hard to argue 50 homers he should hit in 140 games, but all that speed and athleticism. I mean, Acuna is just amazing. This guy he could steal 70, 80 bases.
Yeah, no, definitely could. Interesting. So you keep saying the Braves. You think the Dodgers could are in the conversation to be better than the Braves?
I think so. I don't like teams repeating. Everything had to go the Braves way. I think the NL East is better. And I think the Dodgers probably will be better. Walker Bueller coming back healthy
Dustin May.
could be big for them. They always have pitching. They always have young pitching. Their lineup is really good. They've got a lot of on-base percentage guys. There's no question that they're going to be good. The Giants always will kind of give them a run for their money. The Padres took a step back. The Rockies suck. Yeah, they should easily make the playoffs, and this is what hurts our teams. The American League East was the best division in baseball maybe ever, and so you got to play all those teams, and it's nice. It's not like football where you don't get banged up, but it's nice to get that kind of free pass and not have to struggle all year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
No,
don't
for
forget
sure.
about the Diamondbacks in that division too. I mean, it made the World Series.
I overlooked them. Yeah, they've got a
Yeah.
good young team. I don't know. The American League is just so much better. There's a few good teams in the National League, but the American League is stacked. The Astros and the Rays, they keep losing people and they just keep drafting good people. And, one of the things, and we talked about it with you guys last year, the Orioles have one of the best teams, but it's going to be interesting to see over the next few years their drafts in the back of the draft.
Right.
It's easy to get Holidays and all these guys and Rushmans when you have the number 1 pick, top 5 pick every year. It's like the Cincinnati Bengals.
Cincinnati
Football.
Bengals effect, yeah.
Yeah, come on. You're bound to hit on one of these top 5 picks, one of these years. So, but Brad and I talked for years. The Orioles were doing it the right way, and it's finally coming to fruition. You were here. I thought they should have done it last year with the ace. Now you've got him. And now what you've got to do, I think, is steal someone's closer. Steal someone's closer that's fallen out of it in late May, early June. Offer a package up early to get that arm in the bullpen, especially if Kimbrel struggles, because Cano's better. I would always go with the better guy, but I don't know. Josh said they might let him battle it out. When a guy's got that many saves, if he's healthy and not totally pitching like shit, they almost feel like they have to give him the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, modern baseball's kind of taken a little bit of a shift on this to where teams are going to go with the hot hand sometimes. Like the closer role's a lot less defined than it used to be. But I would agree with you in a situation where Cano's got, like 6 months of good ball versus Kimbrel's like potential Hall of Fame career, still playing really well. Like they might just give it to him early on just to kind of, go prove it.
To see if he can keep it,
Yeah, it's your job to lose. Yeah.
Correct. And look, his velocity is not down that much. He's just been kind of up and down, but again, how many really great closers are there? The guy on the Mets got injured. He had one of the best years. He's coming back. Hader got traded. There's no real dominant closers. Bautista's a top 5 closer. You could make an argument before he got hurt, he was the best closer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who was better? I mean, I hate the Orioles, but who was better than Bautista? Hader kind of had an off year, and Josh hit on it too. It's not a defined closer role. Sometimes, and the Yankees use Michael King like that, sometimes in the 7th inning with an out, you need 5 outs, and that's big. Now you're holding your breath in the 9th, but if Cano can get 5 or 6 outs, that's probably more valuable than the 9th.
100%, like from an analytical standpoint, I think it is. I feel like I would rather see that happen more than it actually already does. Like, I feel like that's kind of rare for teams to actually bring their closer in the 7th or 8th inning. But I remember seeing it happen last year when the O's were playing the Phillies. And the O's they were down 1 in the 8th inning or so, and they had like the middle of the order coming up in the 8th and the bottom of the order coming up in the 9th. And the Phillies brought in Kimbrel to pitch the 8th inning, and that was before, Kimbrel was pitching well at the time. And I was like, you know what? Wow, I'm actually really impressed with that move. I don't see this happening enough. So the idea to me is great. I just think it needs to happen more.
Yeah, I've always been an advocate for like bring your closer in the highest leverage spot, not necessarily just hand them the 9th. We had a few times in 2022 more so when Felix was not quite as established where we kind of gave like Perez or Baker the 8th inning, and it didn't always go the best or the high leverage spot. And it didn't go the best. And then like the 9th inning comes around and you want to use Felix, but doesn't even make sense now because we blew the game in the eighth. So, and that happens quite often. It used to happen a bit more, but
Well, it happened sometimes with Fujinami last year too.
it did. Yeah, the
Yeah.
volcano.
Yep.
That
That
they
dude,
struggled when Batista got hurt. They went to Cano, and he almost like as soon as he started getting the save opportunities, he struggled. But that also could be, he threw a lot. He was having an all-star first half, and sometimes guys, you hit the wall. You throw a lot of innings. Sometimes you get a dead arm, or you just guys get used to see everyone. You can get people think it's a hitting slump. I've gotten to base stealing slumps, fielding slumps. You can lose your confidence in pretty much anything. But I think the one thing that really at least works against the Yankees is I can't I can't put any manager behind him if you're ranking the managers in the American League East. He's definitely the worst one. I don't think Aaron Boone is the worst manager.
yeah, I'm familiar with your Aaron Boone rants. I see them on Facebook. It's a regular occurrence during the season.
He's horrible, man.
I can't only fault him. Brian Cashman, didn't really improve the team, and on any other team he would have been fired. But I don't. I told you guys last year, I don't like the payroll. I think there should be a salary cap. I think the Yankees, I think it would have actually helped them. The years that they've won were years that they didn't get rid of all their young talent. They did that for years when I was a kid. You have to build and have a nucleus and build around them. That's what the Orioles did. You have to figure out who to sign and kind of piece around. And you know what? The Yankees haven't done that. They didn't give up anything for Giancarlo Stanton, but they're stuck with that contract. And
Right.
it's an albatross. I like Stanton. I think he's a dangerous hitter. He'll definitely help us if he's healthy. The problem is he doesn't run and he can't play the outfield. So it's almost like, and this is what kills me about the Dodgers. That is the craziest thing I've ever seen, signing a DH Ohtani. And Ohtani, other than Judge and maybe Acuna, he's the best player in the league. I mean, he's going to hit 50, 60 homers, 100 runs, 100 ribbies. He can steal bases. The guy's a beast. But for that money, you want him to be pitching too.
Yeah, and how long do you think he's going to be able to sustain that 50 home run level?
You know what, Brad? What I would do if I was the Dodgers is I would sit him out right now. I would have made him have the surgery, make him miss 3/4 of the year, let him play the rest of his career healthy, and I would make him the closer. Make him the closer. Make him a guy that can pitch 5, 6 outs when you're in a game that you need him. This way he can play the outfield and focus on that. It's too hard to keep him healthy. Like you said, how long? I don't think long. I don't think he could throw 175 innings and play all those innings in the field, even as a DH, and not break down. So
Well, that
I
I mean,
have a fantasy league, and so many times he would supposed to be pitch and then they would sit him out. And I guess it's smart, but the other thing too is the Angels sucked. They're a
Yeah.
shitty franchise. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
they're
They signed Pujols to that big contract. They should have traded Trout, or they at least should have traded Ohtani. They could have got anything for him last year. They keep him, finish the year, and they get nothing.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was a joke. And they were like 5 games out of the third wild card spot or something like that. Like you're 5 games out with a couple teams in between of getting the last wild card spot, which
Right.
is
Even if they got it, they had no chance against
Yeah.
any of the teams in the East. It was just a stupid move. And you know what? Some teams just don't know what the hell they're doing. They're one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think in
no.
regards to Otani's health, like, I think what you're saying makes sense. Like, how long can you really sustain this? Like, why would you pay that amount of money for a guy who's not going to be able to do that for a very long time? But with Otani also, like, we don't know because it's unprecedented for a guy to be able to do any of this stuff. Like, no one's supposed to be able to pitch and hit at that level. Who knows what his durability is like? I don't know what his like strength training is. It's got to be insane. But in order to be able to physically get to that point where you're so good at both already, who knows how many years he can go out there and throw 150 plus innings. And maybe
Yeah,
that's
I
what the
mean,
Dodgers bet on.
I heard the idea of making him a closer, and I think that makes him it'll have him more available. But to pay all that money and to and not even play the outfield, he's an extra hitter.
Right.
It, it it's unprecedented because only one guy ever did it. And he didn't do it for long. And he was a big fat guy that was out drinking until an hour before the game started in Babe Ruth. And people don't, remember, but I don't know, it was way before my time. He was the best left-handed pitcher in the American League for years when he first came into the league. They just knew he would be more valuable playing every day. The home run, a guy named Home Run Baker hit like 9 or 19 homers or something crazy, and that was the record in the dead ball era. And then the Babe came around, and it would have been interesting to see. But he, talking about longevity and training program, his training program was
Hot
Pabst Blue
dogs.
Ribbon and hot dogs.
Yep.
So he wouldn't have made it too far. But when you talk about the best players of all time, to me, he's at the top of the list, if not number one for that. He was an all-star pitcher. He had a well over 300 batting average with 700 homers. I don't know, maybe other than Ty Cobb, I don't know who you would put higher, but Ohtani could definitely get to that level because he already probably pitched more than the Babe.
It depends how controversial you want to get, because I would say Barry Bonds is up there, but the whole juicing thing.
I guess I besmirch him and A-Rod. I don't like the way baseball handled it, but if you're just judging on their ability, yeah. I mean, with the juice, he still would have made the Hall of Fame. He was still a Hall of Fame player. He would have hit 500 homers and would have probably been the best player. But you can't argue with the talent and the numbers and the defense and speed. He was an all-around player.
Yeah, 500 home runs, 500 stolen bases, and that was before he really started bulking up. He was a skinny dude
Correct.
earlier in his career.
Correct.
And then I guess it was right around the time he turned 35 or so that he started getting huge. And yeah, I mean, he was in his mid to late 30s when he had that 73 home run season.
I read Shadows of the Game, and it's about the Balco controversy, and it talks all about Bonds, and he didn't care that he was a Hall of Fame player and that he was rich and all that. He was so pissed off and jealous that Sosa and McGuire got all that attention and they brought baseball back because he was a better player. So he juiced because he wanted to show that he could hit those home runs. And, to me, that's a black eye on baseball. They didn't handle it well. I hate to be so cold about it, but I love baseball just as much as football, but football's a better run game. Baseball's probably a better game, but football's a better run business. Substance abuse, cocaine, marijuana, steroids, 4 games. Spousal abuse, 8 games. You kill someone in a DUI, a year suspension. Cut and dried. It's awful, but you get it out in the open and then you get right back to the sport, not covering it up. Not the owners knew these guys were juicing. Barry Bonds' head got huge. I mean, sometimes it's real obvious. McGuire, he was huge. Look at him when he was. But the thing is, he hit 40 homers as a rookie, so it's not like he didn't have power. I just wish baseball handled it differently because some of the best players we've ever seen in our lifetime may not ever get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that
I
era
agree,
is so confusing to me. Like I didn't grow up in that era. I grew up like 2000s, 2010s baseball. But like just looking back on that, reading about it in history, I think some people are really black and white on the issue and there's so much that goes into it. Like I learned like 2 years ago that the substances weren't even declared illegal until like after they had all been like every player in the league was on them. And then they
Yep.
were like, "Oh yeah, it's illegal."
Yes.
And then they get punished for they weren't like grandfathered in. It's interesting for sure.
When the steroids started coming about is when I was playing in college, and I remember in high school, and this is in the late '80s, when I started lifting. My father and grandfather were baseball players. You're going to get muscle bound, boy. Like you're not supposed to be doing that. And that's when people started like lifting, and you had guys like Ken Caminiti and Lenny Dykstra. Lenny Dykstra, literally my size, lefty, similar type player, juiced put on 40 pounds. You could see his freaking head was swollen. I mean, it was obvious. And there were examples like what the hell was the guy's name on the Orioles?
Brady Anderson.
Brady
Brady
Anderson had a
Anderson.
random
Brady
50 home
Anderson
run
hit
season.
fucking all those homers he was all jacked up, you know, and but everybody was doing it. But what about the pitchers? You know, Clemens was, you know, Pettit did it one year. There was
Schilling.
other pitchers. Pitchers didn't really get caught, but they were doing it too. So shouldn't that balance it out?
I mean, I think so.
To me,
I think
that
it
makes
does.
no sense. They should let those, you know, A-Rod, Bonds, they should let those guys in that the numbers were glaring. But to me, some of them were just stupid. Like Bonds didn't have to do it. Or Rafael Palmeiro, what a friggin' moron. He was at the end of his career. All he had to do was friggin' retire, and he gets caught at the very, very end after pointing his finger and saying all that stuff at the hearing. He should have just retired right after the hearing. He's in the Hall of Fame. He escapes all this. But you know what? I guess your ego and you're greedy, and like Bonds. Bonds literally said he did not like them getting all the attention, so he wanted to hit more homers. And to his credit, he sure did.
Yeah, he did a hell of a job.
I
It's
mean,
tough in some cases because, like with Jose Canseco, with his time with the A's, I mean, he was a real skinny guy when he came into the league too. Like big power, big speed, like a very Acuna type build. And you know, he had a couple injury-ridden seasons. McGuire was kind of taking the spotlight, and you know, they shipped off Canseco, I think, in what, like '93 or something like that. I might be getting the years wrong, but they shipped him off. He was like kind of outs in his career, and then he started juicing again. And you know, do you really blame the players for trying to keep their own security in their career? Like that's just where it gets so
it's
nuanced.
legal. Josh, you touched on it. It was legal. It was illegal
Right.
to do in the country, but the sport didn't have rules against it. People were taking it. I'm short. I'm 5'7". I was always naturally kind of cut, so had the strength and speed, but I didn't get drafted because of my size. But I never wanted to juice. I became a personal trainer. I'm too short. You can't be wider than you are tall. It looks friggin' stupid. And especially as a baseball player, you know, it unless you play first base or something where you can't be all like that big and jacked. And now it's different, guys, with the training and everything. But back then, the owners turned a blind eye to it, and it really did save the game. That home run chase, it was an amazing couple of seasons. That record, and you know, it's just a shame. It should have been something that was great, and you know, now with the numbers and everything, and you got to hear about it every year. But other than that crap, to me, the game is the best that it's ever been, with the wild cards, with all the good teams. There's so many young teams in our division. And the Astros are so good every year, and they've lost so many players. They're going to be right up there again next year too.
Yeah, they always are. So there was a lot of discussion last year. All the teams that won like 100 games, the one seeds, I'm pretty sure everyone who got, correct me if I'm wrong, everyone who got the first round buys, the ones and two seeds, ended up losing in the first round. I think may have combined for like 1 or 2 wins total. Do you think that's a fluke? Just some kind of an aberration, or do you think there was actually something to that?
I think that's a fluke. You know,
Yeah.
I think that the Astros, you've got Seattle and the Rangers are really good in their division. The Orioles, you guys had probably the best team in the American League, but without an ace and losing Felix Bautista, you could see that it wasn't the same team. And so I think it's a fluke. I think, you know, it's not like football where every single year the 1 and 2, well, the number ones and twos almost always get knocked out. It's not like that. I think it's nice to not play in that wild card round, but I think it was just a fluke thing. And a lot of it is your guys' team. Without an ace, without the best closer in the league, you were never going to get by too many teams. And you still, I mean, honestly, have the best lineup. I can't think of a lineup as good as Baltimore. I guess you could put the Braves up there, maybe the Dodgers, Astros. I don't know.
Yeah, I think with last year it was interesting too because the Rangers were a very good team. Like that rotation was, firing on all cylinders. That lineup is very scary. I think they were the best offense in the American League last year. And we run into them, and after all season, we had been getting just beat series after series by them. When we played them, Grayson got lit up for like 8 runs or something like that, one of his first starts. And we run into them in the ALDS with the factors you're talking about, with the lack of an ace, lack of Bautista. The offense was kind of cold the end of the year, and it just didn't work out for us. And not to say that the Rangers aren't a better or like a worse team or anything, but that's just kind of baseball. Get to the playoffs, anything can happen.
You want to get hot at the right time, and you really need an ace pitcher. And the bullpen, Cano, I picked him up in my fantasy league, and I was like psyched. And he got the opportunity. He just never kind of ran with it, and it's almost like the team kind of was deflated when Bautista went out. And they kind of hit the lull, but the lineup itself is just scary. And the kids are all young. You could see they enjoy playing, and they're just getting started. But now you've got the ace, and now you might need like a veteran bat, even somebody that doesn't play every day, that has experience in the playoffs, or somebody to keep it light. And I know the Yankee teams always had guys like that. Well, not this team in the 70s. The team in the 70s pretty much hated each other. The Bronx Zoo guys were fighting in the dugout. It was really, really crazy. And that's the exception. You don't see teams that don't get along win very often. Most of the teams, like the early 90s Phillies, that Phillies team sucked for years. But with Dykstra and Dalton catching, and John Kruk and Hollins, they liked each other. They hung out together, and you can see that camaraderie with all those young everyday players on the Orioles. All you guys need is the bullpen to gel, and somebody's got to step up, and it's not going to be Kramer. You want it to be Grayson Rodriguez.
100%. Yeah. I think Kramer will be fine, but yeah, he's not going to step mid ace. He's going to be,
Innings eater.
He's going to have somewhere around like a 4 ERA probably. He'll have some good starts. He'll have some bad starts. He's a solid back end of the rotation guy. But the other thing is, we saw John Means come back at the end of last year, and the few starts that he had, he did really well. But now it's looking like he's not going to be able to be counted on again because he's apparently a month behind everybody else. So that
I don't
counts
know why
him
that
out.
happened.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of random.
Like, he just didn't come ready. Yeah.
Yeah. Although didn't he was actually out for the playoffs too, but I wasn't under the impression that was anything serious.
That was more precautionary, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to get off at 8:50 tonight. So Nick, I wanted to make sure we gave you some decent time to kind of talk a little Yankees, little predictions here. So 2 questions for you. With spring training going on, some things come to light, some things don't. Who are you looking most forward to seeing, like kind of an underrated player on the Yankees this year? And I want to hear the division predictions this year as well. See, we'll compare them next year.
I think Clark Schmidt is a guy that pitched really well. I think the Yankees are high on him. He's got good stuff. He's got good makeup.
He's nasty.
Nestor Cortez kind of scares me. So I think he's a guy that so much is riding on Rodon. But pitching wise, I definitely think that he's a key. And I don't think Volpe is, he was one of our highest prospects. I love what I saw from him. He played great at shortstop. He looked like he was putting it together offensively. He was inconsistent, but he needs to lead off. And I know they're going to lead off LeMahieu, and I think that's a big friggin' mistake. But he's a guy, at least from a lineup standpoint, if he gets on base and has plate discipline, that really sets our lineup over the edge. If not, we've got a Prodder leading off, and that pisses me off. And it's no worries because Aaron Boone is allergic to bunting or stealing. You know what I mean? Especially in extra innings. I think, I don't know. So in extra innings, put the pressure on the other team if you hit the 2-run homer. But I'm picking Clark Schmidt, and the division, I'm picking the Orioles. I want to say the Yankees are going to compete. I want to say the Rays are going to suck. But the Orioles are most likely the team to beat. I think that they're going to have to get another bullpen arm. Seattle's got a really good team. They've got a good pitching staff and a lot of good young players. The West is good. They're almost as good as us. The Central's dog shit. All those teams are bad.
Always is.
There's a bunch of dysfunctional teams there. And I think a big part of our seasons with the equated schedule is going to be not losing to Chicago, Kansas City, and also pilfering those teams. Those teams are going to, especially the White Sox, Dylan Cease. There's a guy that's going to go to a team and help a team out. I'm hoping us, although there's another guy that absolutely killed my fantasy team with a 4.6 ERA. He sucked last year, and he was healthy too.
Yeah.
So I think, if gun to my head, I think the Dodgers and Braves, it's going to be hard for any team to match those two. And the Dodgers have a bunch of guys coming back, could be healthy. Ohtani, Yamamoto, it's probably going to be them. There's no reason why it can't be you guys. The Astros, the West could give you, and all the teams in our division. You guys tell me, Rays, Blue Jays, what are they going to do? I count the Blue Rays out every year, and every year they prove me wrong. So I'm not saying anything. Last year, they were the best team in the league for most of the year.
I think it's going to be a three-headed race most of the year. I think the Rays are going to be a lot better than people think. They have a lot of good prospects coming on, even with the loss of Wander Franco to his stuff going on. But they got a few good guys, like Junior Caminero is supposed to be big power coming out of the minors there. He's like 19 years old, maybe 20. And then Carson Williams, another great infield prospect they have coming up. They always find pitching. They always find ways to win. Randy Arozarena loves the Orioles.
Oh, my God. Biggest Orioles killer. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I think between the Rays, Yankees, Orioles, it's going to be a dogfight all year. And it's going to be fun, but stressful.
Well, what about the Jays, though?
I'm not even worried. They got to do more. I haven't seen enough from them. They didn't make any improvements this year. Their rotation is
they
unreliable.
lost people. They're dysfunctional. Jordan Romano is one of the best closers, but leading up to him is always suspect. They have a few good starting pitchers. I mean, for the first time really ever, Kevin Gausman, but they seem to lose with Gausman 2-1, and Jordan Romano will blow a save in the big spot. They're dysfunctional. They're it's good for our teams, but they are good. And you got Bo Bichette and Vlad Jr. in the middle of the lineup, and that's two of the best hitters, back-to-back young hitters in any lineup, but they just can't put it together. Watch, though, we're counting them out, and this is the year that maybe they come out and they're red hot.
They need Vlad to be a 50 home run guy again, but then we can talk about the Blue Jays, but I'm not really worried until that happens. But sorry, Brad.
I'm not going to count Toronto out. I'm going to say they're about like an 87 win team.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think they're pretty good. I still think they got a lot of talent, and I think that's underachieving based off what they should be able to. So, Toronto, I'll say they win 87 games. I'm gonna cool off on the Rays a little bit. I know it's probably famous last words right there, but I mean they'll still be good. But I'm gonna have Toronto finishing 2 games ahead of the Rays. I really think it took a little bit for the effect to take place, but after Wander Franco's whole situation, they still played well for another week or two after that, but eventually they ran out of gas. And I mean, they still made the playoffs, but I'll say they win like 85 games this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the bullpen arms. It's always the guys in the bullpen. They pull them out of Double-A, and they just never seem to get lit up. And none of our teams do that. None of the other teams in the East do that. We all have issues, and you have Bautista. The Blue Jays have Romano, and you had Cano for most of the season. But
Cano's still fine. Like, he dropped off. He wasn't terrible, but yeah, he
No,
definitely
no.
dropped off a bit the second half.
We
so.
found some good guys kind of through similar methods to the Rays, but they just do it so much better. Like we found good success with situations to use Brian Baker, and Sionel Perez was a waiver claim. Great seventh inning guy. Cano was a nobody before last season. I mean, there's some success with it. We've had some good luck with it in the rotation from time to time too, but it's not something you want to rely on going into the season. And
No.
the Rays can kind of get away with that because they've had such a track record of doing it.
They're
But
friggin' lucky. They're lucky. They pull up guys from Double A and they're pitching the seventh, eighth inning and striking everybody out. And it's like when they're closer, they close 4 different guys. Our teams would never get away with that. But Cashier's a great manager. They know what they're doing. They're a smart organization. It sucks. I hate them. I hate the fact though that they are never going to win. And Brad said, I said it last year, and he disagreed. They can't win. They cannot win. They'll always be good, and they'll always fall short because at the end of the day, if they're close to you guys, you will spend the money and have the prospect to steal a bad team's closer and make your bullpen stronger. And teams like the Yankees, Dodgers, Braves have been doing it for years, and that's where the real unfair advantage of having the money comes in. But you can have all the friggin' money you want. You have to have the prospects to be able to make that deal. That's what they want. And you guys have that. It's just painful sometimes. The Cubs didn't want to trade Gleyber Torres. They didn't want to trade him. You know what I mean? They wanted Chapman. They thought they needed him to break that 100-year curse. They actually did, and he sucked. He got ripped. But, when you're close, you've got to take a chance. And I think you gentlemen should be pretty happy that your team got Burns. And, Brad put it on Facebook as soon as it happened. And I said, "This isn't real, is it?" And he's like, "Yes." I'm like, "I think I'm going to throw up in my mouth. This is awful news."
Yeah, that was a very emotional roller coaster week for me because the Ravens had just choked in the AFC Championship. And then 2 days later, I was feeling a little bit better because they announced the sale of the O's to Rubenstein's group. And then 2 days after that, Corbin Burns to Baltimore. I'm like, okay, all right, ride the
you
wave,
started
baby.
low,
Here
but
we
yeah,
go.
you came up. We back up. Yeah,
So,
100%. But
yeah, but then we get another week later, and Kyle Bradish is hurt. So and then I'm like, oh no, I'm on the way back down.
all the way back down.
Yeah.
But we can get off of here, guys. It's about 8:50, so I got to get out of here. But Nick, appreciate you coming on, man. Look forward to a fun year here.
Hold on. One more time. Just
All
say
right, one
your
more time.
just say your AL East in order prediction, 1 through 5.
I'm going Orioles, Yankees, Rays, Jays, Red Sox.
Okay, and
I'm
I got
the friggin' Orioles over the Yankees.
okay, and I got O's, Yanks, Jays, Rays, Red Sox. So pretty close. I just got the Jays and the Rays flipped. That's it.
Yeah, I got O's, Yanks, Rays, Jays, Sox.
So
Yep. Everyone. Last year I said the Red Sox would suck, and you know what? They've got a good manager, and they've always been a smart organization that knows what they're doing. They're not afraid to pull back to some years and not spend. And even if you have the money and the resources, sometimes it's not smart to do that. Like the Angels. The Angels should have sold everything, and they maybe could contend. But I'm hoping the Yankees could maybe steal Mike Trout. The Yankees need another bat. I don't want someone with a big payroll like that, though. I would rather somebody under the radar. But truth be told, we have a lot of under the radar prospects. You just got to let them play. But I appreciate you guys letting me come on. Definitely have me back on maybe before the season or when the season starts.
all right, maybe
Yeah,
when the O's
would love
play the O's Yanks series, we'll have you on for that. How about that?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Nick, one more question. Do you want the Yankees to get JD Martinez before the off season's up? Does that make sense for you guys?
No, I do not want anybody that can't run. We already have the DH. I want only young, explosive players or a closer. I don't want anything else. I think the Yankees are good. I don't think that the Yankees have the best team, but they have the potential now with Soto in the middle of their lineup, and they had a lot of Rizzo got hurt. They had a lot of things. All their catchers were out, and I'm not making excuses. They sucked. They didn't improve, but I think just by osmosis from last year sucking that they should be okay. But at the end of the day, you got Aaron Boone, so. I don't,
Anything
Josh,
can
you're
happen.
friends with me on Facebook too, right?
Oh, yeah,
You'll be hearing some Aaron Boone rants because I mean he's awful. So it's nothing personal. I just don't like guys that suck.
Yep.
Yeah, he's
Fair
terrible.
enough.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming on, Nick. Would love to have you on before the season starts here, and look
Let's
forward to
do
the
it.
year.
Thanks a lot, Josh. Brad, good talking to you, brother.
All right, back at you, bro. Take it easy, man.